What's up, guys? Welcome back to Buddhist Code Academy YouTube channel. And in this video, we are going to be talking about JavaScript for web developers. JavaScript is a versatile programming language primarily used for enhancing web pages. Alright, it allows you to add interactive features, manipulate content, and respond to user actions on your web pages. Unlike HTML and CSS, which focus on structure and style, JavaScript brings your website to life. Without JavaScript, your website will just be static and clunky. Right? It's just fixed. There is no life there. But with JavaScript, you can create features like animations and cool visual effects. Right? You can validate your form as the user type. You can have interactive elements like drop down menus, maps, a lot of things. Alright, so basically anything that makes your web page feel more engaging and user friendly can be done with JavaScript. For this course, we would be needing two things. The first, which is the browser. It can be a Chrome browser, it can be Mozilla Firefox or Microsoft Edge. That's the latest version of Microsoft Edge. Then the second thing we would need is a text editor. Alright, here I'm going to be using VS Code throughout this course. You can download VS Code to use. If your PC has low specs, you can option for Sublime Text. Alright, so just search on Google, download VS Code, and you should be directed to the website. If you're on Windows, you're on Mac or Linux, the software is there for any operating system. Alright, so let's write our first JavaScript code. Our browsers by default comes with a JavaScript engine that allows us to write some JavaScript code inside on our browser itself. Alright, so I'm currently on Google Chrome, whichever browser you are, Mozilla Firefox or whatever. You can actually write JavaScript code on your browser. So in order to access that engine, you right click on your browser and scroll down to inspect. Alright, then click on console. So this here is the engine that we have that we can use to write our JavaScript code. Right, so to output something in JavaScript, we'll use the console.log if you want to display anything in your console in JavaScript. Right, so I'm going to be outputting hello world. So we use the console.log, open your brackets, then I'm going to put my quotation mark, hello world. Right, then end the quotation mark and close the bracket. So as you can see, we have the output of hello world. So congratulations on your first JavaScript code. So we can also do some other things like basic arithmetic operations. So I can do 2 plus 2, and you can see the output there, 4. All right, so we can do a lot of things on our console as far as we're writing JavaScript code. Alright guys, so right now we'll add JavaScript to our HTML page. Alright, so this is my folder in VS Code, and I'm going to create a new file called index.html. Then as usual, press the exclamation mark and tab, then we get a boilerplate code for us. Then also I'm going to be installing the an extension in VS Code that will enable us to run our code in real time without manually refreshing our browser. All right, so go to view, commands, palette, then click on install extensions, then search for lifesaver. All right, this is it. Then make sure the package is installed. Okay, yeah, it's installed. Sometimes you might want to restart your VS Code. Let's see. So this is the my HTML page, and if I should refresh, you can see open with lifesaver, right? Click on it, then to start, and your ports should be given. All right, so this is my port, and if I should come here and write hello everyone, I'll come here, I can see that it will automatically refresh. So this is a good way of writing your front end code without coming here to manually refresh. All right, so I've arranged my browser and my VS Code so that they can be side by side. So in order to add JavaScript to HTML file, we use the script tag, right? So coming down here under my body, right? So I'm going to create the script tag, open and close it, right? So any code that is written inside the script tag, your browser is going to interpret it as JavaScript. All right, so I can come here and say console.log hello world, right? So once it's refreshed, you can see it on my browser console, hello world, right? So this is because the browser has interpreted anything that is inside the script. It has interpreted it as JavaScript, right? So I can as well come and do console.log 2 plus 2, right? So we can see hello world and 4. The hello world is for the first console.log, and 2 plus 2 is 4, which is seen in our console, right? So this is a way you can add JavaScript to your HTML file. Right, most of the times when writing JavaScript inside HTML, your HTML file, it's going to be it's going to be long lines of code, right? And leaving your script or JavaScript inside the HTML file might be cumbersome, and the file might be very long. So it's a good practice to separate your HTML code from your JavaScript code. All right, just the way you separate your HTML from your CSS, it's also good to separate it from your JavaScript. All right, so I'm going to create a new file in this folder called script.js. Script.js. Good. So creating your JavaScript file, it always ends with the .js extension. All right, and you can see VS Code recognizes it as a JavaScript file. You can see this yellow JS icon, right? Just the way VS Code also recognizes this index.html as an HTML file. So all JavaScript files end with .js. Good. So now we have our script.js file here, right? So in order to connect our JavaScript to our HTML file, we've already written the script tag, right? Let me just bring on the same line. We've written the script tag, right? So in order to connect this file in order to connect the script file to the HTML file, we add an attribute called sroc, which is a short form of source, right? Then inside this sroc, we add the location of the JavaScript file. All right, so I always like to using the path pattern. Since I have my HTML and my JavaScript in the same file, so I can do this period and slash. All right, using this period and slash means the file is located
in the same folder with the HTML, which you can see here, index.html and script.html. They are in the same folder. Then write the name of the file, script.js. Good. So I will explain again. After creating your script.js in your folder, you come to your HTML below the body tag, open and close your script tag, right? Then inside the script tag, create an attribute called sroc and let it be equal to the location of the script file. So let me come again, using the period and slash, it means the script file is located in the same folder. Since located in the same folder, you write the name of the script. So now we have script.js. We've been able to connect it. So let's write some JavaScript code inside the script.js. So coming to our script.js, console.log external JS. So coming to our console, you can see external JS. So this is to show you that we've been able to connect it successfully. So you can also console.log hello world again, hello world, and you can see hello world, right? So this is a good practice of separating your HTML and your JavaScript file, especially if you are going to be doing a lot of JavaScript code, so that it can be easy to maintain. In JavaScript, variable is used to store data or a value. All right, so we can store any data in a variable which can be used later on in the code. All right, that data can be deleted and that data can be edited. So basically, a variable in JavaScript is used to store values or data. In order to create a variable in JavaScript, we do it using the var keyword, right? Then after that, we write the name of the variable. So let's say I want to store age. I want to store my age in a variable. I can name the variable age, right? Have been able to successfully create a variable called age. Now I want to assign my age to this variable. So coming down to line 2, I can type age is equal to 100, right? So I've successfully been able to assign 100 to a variable called age. So I can as well come here to display this variable in our console.log age. Coming down here back to our console, we can see 100, right? I can again change this variable from 100 to 200. So coming down here, I can say age equals to 200. So I've been able to replace the variable with 200, the value to 200. I've been able to change the value to 200, and as you can see, right? So again, I can give another example, storing my name, right? var name. I've been able to create a variable. Coming down to line 2, name is equal to Emmanuel, right? Now I want to display my name, console.log name. As you can see, I have Emmanuel in my console, right? Another thing about creating a variable is that you can initialize the value at the creation of the variable. So going down to wipe everything, I can come here and say var name is equal to Emmanuel, right? So if you would want to need the variable, If you want to use a variable immediately, you can initialize your value in the variable there. So there is no need to just declare the variable and assign it later. If you have an instance where you need to assign the value to the variable immediately, you can create the variable name and assign the value there. So coming down here, I can say console.log name, and this gives me Emmanuel again. All right. I can add two numbers. So this Emmanuel is a string, right? We'll be dealing with string in the next another data types soon, right? But this is just an illustration of what variable is. So variable, as you can see, we've created a name and we stored Emmanuel in the name. There are other ways of creating variables apart from the var. We have the let. The let is similar to the var, but it has its advantage, which I will not be treating now because this is introductory part of the video, right? I'll be treating the difference between let and var later, but let's see an illustration. I can put let name equals to Emmanuel, right? Console.log name, and you can see Emmanuel is here. I can change name to Buddhist Code Academy, right? You can see it has been changed to Buddhist Code Academy. That brings us to our last variable called constant. So when declaring a variable using constant, we use the const keyword, right? Just the way we've been declaring other variables using var or let. But the difference here is that when you use constant, the variable cannot be changed. We're able to change Emmanuel to Buddhist Code Academy, but right now if I try to change it, it's going to give me error. So coming down here, name equal to Buddhist Code Academy. Okay, adding errors. Good. So you can see the error on code type error, assignment to constant variable. So when declaring a variable with a constant, you must not reassign a value to that variable, right? You might be creating a constant of the list of months in a year, right? The list of months in a year does not change. You can create a constant of the names of the states in your country, right? It does not change. Maybe it can change later on in the future, but basically when you use a constant in JavaScript, you should not reassign a value to it. So that is there are certain rules to follow when creating a variable, right? When creating a variable, the first rule is do not start your variable with a letter, right? For instance, this is my name. If I decide to put letter 1 before the name, you can see VS Code is giving red already, and you can see the error from here also, right? So a variable should not start with a number. Your variable should not start with a special character, right? Removing the 1, I can start to put period before the name. You can see again we are having red, right? Good. But there are some special characters that your variable can accept. For instance, I can use underscore, right? It works. Good. Your variable should not start with numbers or some special characters, but they can end with numbers. So I can decide to come to the end of this variable and put name 1. Not that. Name 1, right? As you can see, we have name 1 and there is no error, right? Coming down here I can okay, I can put name underscore, right? So underscore is accepted before or after the variable. Another thing is there should be no space in your variable, right? Let's say I want to have something like first name. I can come here and use a camel case. There's what they call a camel case in JavaScript. When you want to combine two words as a variable, start the first word with small letter. I need first name, first, then name. The second word should start with a capital letter, right? So I just combined two words to make them a variable. First name, first and name. The first letter of the first name is a small letter, a lowercase letter, right? And name, which is the second part, is an uppercase letter. As you can see, this is a camel case. But if I should come here and put a space in between them as a variable name, it leads to error. So there should be no space between your variables. Another thing why naming your variables is that your variables, you should name your variables according to the data you want to store, right? For instance, I want to store the name Emmanuel to my variable and it's my first name. I can as well call I gave the name of the variable first name, right? I can give it name, I can give it anything relating to name, right? It should not be outside the scope of the data you want to store. The reason is that it makes your code easy to read and maintain. Imagine trying to store my name and I call the variable let's just say X. While someone is reading it, they might not know what X is. But coming down here and seeing first name in my code, by default, that should tell you are storing the first name of whoever you want to store. So that is it for variables. Strings in JavaScript is a sequence of characters. It can be your name, it can be a sentence, anything that has a character can be considered as a string in JavaScript. So in order to create a string, let me create a variable first, and let's say I want to store my name, which I did in the previous video, right? Name, okay, let's use first name equals, a string can be created either using single quotes or double quotes in JavaScript, right? In some programming languages, using single quotes is different from using double quote, but in JavaScript, you can use single quotes or double quotes. So I'm going to go with a single quote, and again, I will use Emmanuel, right? So I've been able to successfully create my string using single quotes, right? Let's create another name. Let last name equals to Mobude, right? And I can decide to display both of them, console.log first name, console.log last name. So you can see okay, yeah, so you can see Emmanuel Omobude, right? I've been able to create my string using both single quotes and a double quotes. All right. There are different methods we can use in a string. We are going to go through different things that can be done using string apart from just creating them, right? So you can decide to add two strings together, right? So let's create a variable, final name. Let's call it final name equal to. So let's add first name and last name together. First name plus last name, and then console.log final name. Perfect. So displaying the final name, we can see Emmanuel Mobude combined together. So this is what is called concatenation. When you decide to add two strings together. Good. There is no space between them, so I can as well come here and say plus a string with space, and you can see there's a space between them now, Emmanuel and Mobute. Good. Another thing we can do using a string is to get the length of the string, right? So let's say, okay, let me create another variable. Maybe you might want the maximum length of a string or a value to be 10 or 20. You need to check the length of what is there. So we use the dot length method. So coming here, I can say first name length to get the length of the first name. So I can come here, first name dot length. Good. Then console dot log first name length. So coming here, you can see 8. So if we should count the length of Emmanuel, E is 1, double M 2 and 3, A 4, N 5, U 6, E 7, and L 8. So the total length of Emmanuel is 8 I've counted, and using the string dot length, which is our variable first name dot length, we can get 8 in our console. Alright. So another thing we can do is we can do we can get the index of a string, right? So there are different ways of getting the index of a string. So okay, so first of all, let me take out last name. First of all, in JavaScript, there's what they call indexing, right? We have Emmanuel, right? So let me display console.log first name. We have good Emmanuel. Good. So each of this string has what we call an index, right? The first letter of Emmanuel, which is E, has an index of 0, right? The second letter of Emmanuel, which is M, has an index of 1. Index always starts from 0 and then it increases by 1. So E is of index 0, M is of index 1, second M is of index 2, A is of index 3, N is of index 4, U index 5, E index 6, and L index 7, right? So these strings have their various indexes, and that is what we call position. So I can come here to get the first index of this string. So using the variable name first name, opening my square bracket, if I put 0, which is the first index of this string, you can see E has been printed, right? Because E is the first index. Good. So if I try to get the third index of this string, you can see A, because the first index is E, second index is M, and sorry, first index is 0, which is E, the next index 1, which is M, this other index M, which is 2, and then the other index 3, which is A, right? So this is how we can find the position of a character in a string. So I can decide to put 4. The fourth index is N, right? So good. So that is it for the positioning using the index. So now we can decide to find the index of a character in a string. So what do? Let's say I want to find the index of of U. Let's use U. We've used other characters. I can say first name dot index of, close my bracket, right? Then I'm going to put string, because there is string, so I'm going to put my quote, rather either single or double quote, right? U. So I want to find the index of U in this string, and as you can see, we have 5, right? So I've successfully been able to get the index of u in this string, and if you count 0 1 2 3 4 5, u ends with index 5. Remember again, index starts from 0. Good. So now let's try to get the position of e. So let me turn this to small letter. So we have 2e. So coming down here, trying to get the index of e, we have index 0, right? But we have 2e in this string. We have at the beginning and we have towards the end. So that brings us to last index of. You might have a sequence of strings and a sequence of characters, and you want to find the last index of a certain character, right? So that is where we come with the last index of method. So coming down here, we have string at the beginning and towards the end. The first one is at 0 and the last position is at index 6, which we have here, right? So using index of gets the first index of the character. Even if you have multiple, it gets just the first one. And using last index of gets the last one. Good. I can decide to add a here, then change this last index of a, right? We can see that it's at last index of 8, right? Which is the last index. That is where a ends. That is where the last value of a is, rather. So another thing we can do is change a character from uppercase to lowercase or vice versa. So if I want to change this character, this Emanuela to uppercase, Emmanuel, okay, yeah, Emanuela. Let me just take it back to Emmanuel. Good. So if I should want to change this Emmanuel to uppercase, right? We'll come down here. Okay, let me assign it to a variable. Let's upper name. Okay, not bad. Equals to first name, which is a string, dot to uppercase. Then put your bracket. Right. So now let's display upper name. You can see the first variable there that we initialized was Emmanuel with all lowercase, right? And now after adding dot to uppercase to upper name, we can see the display, the output of Emmanuel, and everything is in uppercase later. They are all in caps, right? So we can also do to lowercase, yeah, and we can see it in lowercase. So coming down here, I can decide to initialize Emmanuel as an uppercase string, but with this dot lowercase added to it, we can see Emmanuel in all small letter, right? So you can either use dot uppercase or dot lowercase to change your strings to different characters. So another thing we can do is replace. So I'll be giving an example, and I'm going to call this variable sentence, right? And coming down here, this is a sentence, right? So we've been able to create a variable called sentence and assign this is a sentence string to it, right? So I want to replace this with that, right? So now I have this sentence created, right? So let me create another variable, sentence replaced, right? So I want to replace this in this sentence with that. I want to change it to that. I've already initialized it with this is a sentence, right? Using the replace keyword, replace method. So coming down here, I'm going to write the name of the variable, which is this, right? Dot replace, close, open and close of bracket. Now replace takes in two parameters. The first parameter is what you want to replace in the sentence. I want to replace this, right? Then add your comma, and then the other parameter is what you want it to be replaced with. So I want to replace this with that, right? Coming down here, so it's a very simple thing. After using the dot replace, open your curly bracket. It takes two parameters. The first parameter is the first thing you want to replace in the sentence. I want to replace this, right? And the second parameter is what you want to be, what you want to use to replace the value, which is that. So I want to replace this with that. So coming down here to display it, console.log sentence replaced, we should see, good. So we should see this is a sentence, right? So let me display the original sentence, console.log sentence. So you can see the first one is this is a sentence, which was the original one. Then the second variable is that is a sentence. So that is it for replaced with, replace in sentence. So another thing we can do is start with. Another thing we can do with strings is using the start with and end with method, right? So I want to know if a string starts with a certain value or ends with a certain value. So let's create a variable called start with equal to, I want to check, does this sentence start with this? So coming down here, I can say start with, close my bracket, and I can add this. So let's console.log start with, good. So we can see true, right? Because it starts with this. So now let's check for th. Does it start with th? We can see this. You can see true rather. Now, does it start with is? We can see false. Besides, true and false is a data type that we'll treat on later in this video. Good. Does it start with os? False. Does it start with s? False. Right? Good. Because it does not start with. So basically, when you use the string dot start with, it checks if the string starts with whatever you have there, and the output is either a true or false. So this is a similar thing to end with, right? So let me take off these variables and create a variable called end with, right? Equal to sentence dot ends with. Put your value there. Let's do for CE. So let's display console.log end with. So does this sentence end with CE? Yes, it does. Now let's do for smaller letter CE. Does it end with smaller letter CE? We get false because it ends with capital letter CE, right? Using what we just did, we can convert this small letter CE to an upper case, right? Does it end with small letter? Does it end with capital letter CE? We have a true, right? So start with and end with is case sensitive. So if you are not sure, you can decide to just convert both of them to either a lowercase and uppercase and check. What I mean is, if probably you have a string from a user input or anything, and you are not sure if it's a smaller letter or upper letter ends with, because start with and ends with is case sensitive, right? You can come here and say sentence dot to uppercase, right? Dot ends with ce dot to uppercase, yes. And we can see true. You can convert both of them to lowercase, right? So these are just different things that you can try out using strings. So try it out on your own, practice everything that has been done in string, and see the endless possibilities of using string in JavaScript. Numbers in JavaScript are used to store numerical values. It can be whole number like 10, or decimal number like 10.19, or exponential 1e2, or it can even be in binary. All right, so basically anything that can you can use for numerical values is under the number data type, right? So in order to create a number in JavaScript, you can create a number added to a variable. So let's create a variable here. Let's number equal to 19, right? And then let's display it console.log number, right? Advantage of using numbers in JavaScript is for mathematical operations and for a lot of calculations. All right. Um, so we can do our addition in JavaScript. We can do mathematical operations in JavaScript. So let's try to add two numbers. Let x equals to 19. Let y equals to 20. And let addition equal to x plus y. Right? With JavaScript, you can do mathematical operations. So x plus y, which is 19 plus 29, we can have 48. Good. We can also do subtraction. 19 minus, oh, let me change the data type. Subtraction. Good. So remember, your variable name should always be relating to what you are doing, right? So we have 19 minus 29, and we have minus 10. Good. So again, you can work with decimal points. You can work with decimal points, and you get your answers in decimal. Good. So that leaves us with the ability to use some methods under numbers in JavaScript, right? We have, for instance, with what we just had, we have the answer is minus 9.21999. So we can convert this to just two decimal places using the to fixed, right? It rounds it to the number of decimal place. Good. So I can come here to say let fixed equals to subtraction dot to fixed, right? 2. So let's display fixed, and we can see we have 10.12. So what was the original? Okay, let's display the original first. Console.log subtraction, then the fixed value. So yes, it rounds it up for us. The first value was 10.199 and the second value is 10.12, right? So we can change this is two decimal places, as you can see. We can change it to 4 decimal places, as you can see, 1200. So if you use your normal calculator, you do whatever you want to do, you would get this. So with this, we can be able to get our numbers in our decimal numbers in different decimal places. Good. Then there is a method to know if a value is a number, right? So um before then we can convert a string to a number, right? So using let's give this x is 10. Let me take this off. Let's y equal to 20, right? These are string. Now let's say addition equal to x plus y, right? Console.log addition. Good. So we can see 1020 because when adding a string together, it just takes the two values and place them side by side. But we want to convert this string to a number in JavaScript. We can wrap the strings with number. Good. So I can as well come here and say number. Sorry. NUMBR. Open bracket, close bracket, right? Come here again, number, open bracket, close bracket. Good. So now I've been able, before adding the numbers, I converted them to a number, right? By wrapping them inside the number method, inside the number function. Good. So now I've been able to convert x from a string to a number and y from a string to a number. So when you add them together, you get 30, which is correct, instead of 1020, which was a string. All right. So that's how we can convert certain strings to numbers. Now you might be taking inputs from your users and you want to confirm if it's a number. You can do that using okay, so let me just work with x. Okay, x. Okay, let me put period, right? And trying to convert this period to a number, we get the value nan. So you might be working with your user and you want them to with your users and you want them to impute numerical values and you want to validate. So when you check in, you convert to a number first and you check if it's nan, right? nan is a data type, which means not a number, right? It means not a number. Good. So once you get not a number, you know that the user is trying to play smart on you by not putting a number. Then you can return anything you want, maybe impute a valid number or whatever validation error you want to put. Good. So that is how to check if a value is a number. So yeah, we can also convert a string, right, to a floating number, which is a decimal place. I can say 3.14, which is pi, right? So I want to convert pi to a floating. So let's say we have 3.14 and we converted it to a number and it gave us 3.14 direct, and maybe we want this to be a whole number, not a decimal number, right? We just want it to be 3, right? So we can use the pass int method, pass int, right? PRSE and capital letter I, then NT. So using this, it converts our string to a whole number, right? So we can take off the string and it can work with decimal places, with decimal point as well, right? So we can see the input was 3.14 and when we use the pass int, it gave us the value of 3, which is a whole number. Good. Then we can also use the pass float. Pass float is similar, but it turns the value to a floating number, which is decimal, which is a decimal place. Good. We can try some numerical operations in JavaScript, right? We can okay, we can check the we can use the square root in JavaScript, right? So let's say I want to get the square root of x is, okay, let's equate x to 16 and let's square root sqrt equal to maths, right? This is an inbuilt method in maths, and you can use the sqrt maths dot square root. That's what sqrt stands for, right? This is the math method that we're using in JavaScript. Then put x or whatever you are using, but since I'm using a variable which is x, we get it there. Then console.log sqrt, and we can see 4, right? The square root of 16 is 4. If we change it to 25, the square root of 25 is 5. Good. So we can also use the math has different methods that we can use for calculations, right? If you're in your VS Code, once you write math, you can put dot and you can see different things you want. Here, cos, sine, a lot of things that you can use. Log is there, log 10, log 2, everything. So let's use power, right? Mass of power takes two values, right? If you over everything, you see how to use them, right? The first one is the value, and the second one is the power of the value, right? So if I use 2 and 3, it means 2 raised to the power of 3, right? 2 raised to the power of 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 4, 4 times 2 8, which is what we can see here, right? If you want to know more about using it, you can when you write a comment in JavaScript, your interpreter or your browser escapes the value. All right, so I can say x is equals to 1. Oh, sorry, let x equal to 1, let y equal to 2, console.log x plus y. All right, we have theory. Good. So I can comments were made for documenting your code, right? You might have 100 lines of code, 200 lines of code, and if there is no comment, it might not be readable. Whoever is trying to read it might take time to understand it. But once you write a comment, it's like a note to a certain line of code or a block of code, like, okay, this is what this should be. So for instance, I can write a comment using double forward slash and say this is the first variable. This is the first variable, right? A comment does not affect the execution of the code, right? As you can see in our output, we still have 3. I can write comment here. This is the second variable. As you can see with the VS Code highlighting, you can see it is dark green, which means it is not included in the code, right? I can decide to write comment everywhere. Your browser does not interpret it because it's a comment, is useless there. The comment was made to create short notes or documentations on your code while writing your code. So you can use comment also to temporarily remove something from your code. Let's say you want to temporarily remove something, but you do not want to delete it, right? So I can say, okay, let me remove this one. I can say I want to comment out y, right, and remove this. Y has been temporarily removed. Maybe I want to use it later and I do not want to delete it, right? Then coming back here, I can remove the comment. So you can create comments using in your VS Code. If you don't want to manually put the double slash at the end, you can just highlight it and press Control slash, right? It does it for you, right? Highlight it, put Control slash, or come to the beginning of it and press Control slash. Not just VS Code, almost all code editors use Control slash, your forward slash, Control forward slash. Almost all editors use it to comment. Conditional statements in JavaScript I use to run a certain lines of code or blocks of code if a condition is met or if a condition is not met. All right, so let's give an example. This condition have to do with the if and else statement, if else, else if, or switch statement. Right, so let's give an example. X is equal to 10. Right, so now I want to do something if x is greater than 10 or else is not greater than 10. Right, so I'm going to come down here and write my if. After your if, you open and close the bracket. This is where your condition comes in. Right, now I want to know if else is greater than 10. Right, after you've written your condition inside your curly bracket, you create a curly braces. This is where your expression is. This is where your block of lines of code are. So I can display console.log x is greater than 10. Right, good. And coming down to my console, nothing is there. That is because x is equals to 10. X is not greater than 10. Right, so that is using nothing displayed. Now this is our if statement and this is our condition. Our condition states that console.log x is greater than 10 should only run, which is this line 3. It should only run if x is greater than 10. What is x? X is 10. Is 10 greater than 10? No, 10 is equal to 10. But if I should change x to 11, right, we can see x is greater than 10. Why? Because x is 11. And in our condition, we said x must be greater than 10. So we're having x is greater than 10. Right? Now, what if we want to do something if x is not greater than 10? It can be less than 10, it can be equal to 10, but as far as it's not greater than 10, do something. That is when the else keyword comes in. So now coming down here, I'm going to write else. Else does not take a condition because it does not fit in. Right, so coming down here I can say console.log x is not greater than 10. Good. So now going to our console, we see x is greater than 10. If I should change x to 6, you can see x is not greater than 10. Why? Because else is running. Right, the first condition was if x is greater than 10, run this, else run this. All right, so we have just two conditions, the if and the else statement. Once you have your else statement there, it runs if the if statement is not, the condition in the if statement is not active. Right, we can also have multiple conditions. All right, not just if and else. We can check if else is greater, if else is equals to 10. We can check for different conditions. Now I checked if x is greater than 10. Right, I can also check if x is equal to 10. That is using the else if statement. Coming down here, I'll say else if. Again, the else if takes a condition, unlike the else. Good. If x is equal to 10, right, do this. Using condition in JavaScript and all programming language as well, a lot of programming languages, when you want to check if something equal to, you will always use the double equal to. Right, so console.log, I can say yes x, what am I doing? Yes, x is 10. So if I should change x to 10, if I change x to 10, Let it reload. You can see yes, x is 10, right? So the first condition was if x is greater than 10. The second condition is if x is less than 10, right? I can decide to add if x is sorry, the first condition is if x is greater than 10. The second condition is if x is equal to 10. I can decide to add another condition if x is less than 10 using the else if. Coming down here, I can say else if x is less than 10, console.log x is less, should be in a string, x is less than 10. Good. So coming down here, I can put x is equal to 5, and as you can see, x is less than 10. But if it does not meet the condition, we get x is not greater than 10, or I can just change it to condition not met. So let me turn x to a string and let's see. Okay, it's less than 10. Javascript took it as 10. Now let me put period, condition not met, because period is not a number, it's not greater than 10 or anything. So we have condition not met. It tried the first period. Is period greater than 10? We can't. No. Is it equal to 10? No. Is it less than 10? No. Then it finally goes down to condition not met. So that is how we can run certain blocks of code or lines of code under a condition, right? So I'll give another example. Let me take this out. Let's say I want to check the weather, right? Let me create a variable called weather. Let me just create an empty variable. Then I can check if weather. Okay, let me initialize it first. Weather equal to, let's give it cloudy. If weather is equal to sunny, right? Again, using, when you are trying to use equal to, you don't just use if weather with one equal to, no, you use two, right? If weather is equal to sunny, you can say console.log weather is sunny, right? I want to add another condition, else if weather is equal to rainy, I can say console.log weather is rainy, else if weather is equal to let's use cloudy. Okay, console.log weather is cloudy, else if none of these conditions are met, either the if or the else if, that is when the else comes in. Console.log unknown weather condition. Good. So now we can see in our console weather is cloudy, right? So if I should change weather to rainy, we can see weather is raining, which is the else if statement that kicked in, right? So if I should change weather to an empty string, we get unknown weather condition. So this is how you can use your if, else if, and else statement to determine how some certain expressions are met, how some certain conditions are met. All right. So that would be all for if, else, and else if statement. So A switch statement in JavaScript is a shortcut to your if and else statement, right? Um, Using if and else statements can be somehow long. If else, if else, if else. You can choose to use switch statement or vice versa. So, still on the weather, let weather equals to, let's give it sunny this time. Let weather equal to sunny, right? So, using our condition switch statement, we use the switch, right? And what do we want to check for? What condition do we want to use? We use weather. So what we use weather, right? We want to check which of them is equal to weather. Then we have the expressions, right? So then that is where the case, then the next thing we do is to start using case. So case, let's start with sunny. Case sunny, right? Then put your column, and under here you can do whatever you want to do. Let's display console.log console.log weather is sunny. So if the weather is sunny, we have console.log weather is sunny. Then we break the expression, the conditional statement, right? We don't want it to continue. Then we check for other cases. If weather is rainy, console.log weather is rainy, right? Then break. We want to break the expression. All right, so let's add another condition. Case cloudy, um console.log weather is cloudy. Break again. We want to break the expression. Then finally, so this is just like if weather is sunny, console.log weather is sunny. If weather is rainy, console.log weather is rainy. If weather is cloudy, console.log weather is cloudy. Then break also, right? Then else. In this case, using switch statement, we use the default. Else console.log unknown weather. So this is it. So let's get to our output. You can see weather is sunny. If I change weather to rainy, we see weather is rainy, right? If I should change weather to cloudy, we see weather is cloudy. And if I should change to an empty string, we see unknown weather. Good. So this is a shortcut, like I said, to your if statement. Let's talk about objects in JavaScript. Object is a data type that is used to store information in a variable in an organized format. All right. We can relate objects to real life scenario. So let's say we have a person. A person can be an object, right? A person can have a name, right? A person can have an age. A person as well can have an occupation, right? A person can have a complexion, fair or dark or light skinned. Again, a person can have a height, tall, short, or whatever. So these are the properties of a person, all right? These attributes I just mentioned in a person are called properties in JavaScript. So let's dive into writing code. So again, JavaScript helps you to organize information in an organized manner, and you can put the information in order in any way you want it. You can update or delete any information. All right. So to create an object in JavaScript, let's start with creating a variable. So let's use the first illustration, which is person. So the name of our variable will be person, right? Equals to. Then to create an object in JavaScript, you use the curly braces.
All right. Then the properties I just mentioned, the name, the age, occupation, height, in JavaScript, yeah, they are called properties or keys. All right. So the first property I would write is name, right? And to store the value, you put your column. The key is a property which I've written, which is a name. Then to store the value, you put a column and write the value. All right. So the name I want to use is Emmanuel. All right. And to add multiple properties or key and values in your object, you use a comma to separate them. Good. So I want to add another property or key, which would be age. Put your column again and store the value. um let's say 100 years. All right. Separate with the comma again. Then add another key, occupation. Put a column and software developer. Right. So in this way, we've been able to organize all the information of just one person inside an object. All right. Again, an object is an organized form of storing data in key and values. The key, first key here is name and the value is Emmanuel. The second key here is age and the value is 100. I can as well store it as a number instead of a string. The third key here or property is occupation and the value is software developer. All right. So let's give it this an output console.log person, and let's see what we have. So as you can see, we've had the data type, which is object, right? If we should bring it, open it, you can see the age, you can see the name, you can see the occupation, software developer. All right. So let's give another illustration. Let's give a car an object, right? um the name of the car can be Venza, Toyota Venza. I love Venza. Separating it into comma. The color, let's give it black, right? The year, let's give it 2024. All right. So these are the properties of the car, right? So let's output the car and see. So yeah, you can see the name, the color is black, the name is Venza, and the year. So we've been able to organize this information of a single car inside an object. All right. So instead of storing them separately, I can as well come and say car name. Let's car name equals to Venza. Let me use comic case. Let's car color equals to black. Let's car year equals 2024. You can see I've had three variables, and it's storing your data in different variables. It might be kind of cumbersome to track each of them. All right. So but when we have everything in an object, it's just there. If you want to access it, you can access it. Right. We can have different kind of cars. Let me say this is car one. Let's have car two. Another vehicle, BMW. Let's give this a color of red. Yeah, 2023. And then I'll output car two again. So coming here, you can see it, right? So these objects are very organized. You can see you can have different information of different cars in different objects. Good. So now let's talk about properties. So we can as well access properties in our objects, right? So let's say I want to access a property or a key of cat2, I want to access the name. We have different ways of doing it, but first we'll start with the dot notation, right? So accessing a key in an object, we already have the name of the variable, which is cat2 dot. We can choose to access the name, right? So coming down here, we can see BMW, right? Then we can as well access the year. We can see 2023, right? So that's it with the dot notation. Then another way, okay, I can access person. Let me take this out. I can access person dot occupation, right? As you can see, software developer, which is this software developer, right? I can access person dot name, which is Emmanuel. This is person, the variable here, and the name is the key or the property. You can see highlighting the VS code. You can see property, right? Good. We see Emmanuel. So another way of accessing, before that, another way of accessing is using the square bracket, right? So I can put a square bracket and put in my quotation mark and put in name, right? Coming down here, you see Emmanuel, right? Emmanuel, person is the name of the variable of the object, and I can as well try to access occupation using the same square bracket method. And we have software developer, which is this. So another thing we can do in object is updating a variable, right? By default, the name of person is Emmanuel. I can edit it. Person dot name using dot notation also equals to Buddhist code academy, right? Then we can as well output person dot name. Good. So coming down here, you can see it has been changed to Buddhist code academy. That's because we edited the person dot name equals to, we changed the person dot name to Buddhist code academy, right? So I can as well change the age, person dot age, to 20 years. Then let's just output person instead of outputting the properties. So by default, the name was Emmanuel, age was 100, and occupation was software developer. Now I've changed the name to Buddhist Code Academy and the age to 20. So if we should go to our logs at putting the object, we can see the age has been changed to 20, name is Buddhist Code Academy, and software developer is still there because we did not change it. So we can add data to an object. Let me remove the cars and let's just work with person, right? We can add data to an object using either the dot notation or the bracket notation, right? So we can say, let's say I want to add height to this person dot height using the dot notation again equals to tall, right? So can have a tall short person, then output the person. So coming back here, we can see the height has been added, tall, right? It was not there initially, it was not here initially, right? But we added the property. We can add the property to an object which we are doing. We added the property to it. We can also add person dot complexion equals to light skinned, right? Then coming down here, we can see it has been added to the object. Good. um Apart from the dot notation, we can also use the bracket notation, right? So it depends on you. We can put our brackets here, put the brackets here. um so we would wrap in the property inside the square bracket with a quotation mark, doing the same here, right? Good. Coming back here, you can see nothing changed, they are all the same, right? So you can use the bracket or dot notation to access an object, to update an object also. Good. Another thing we can do is Another thing we can do is deleting the properties of an object, right? Again, we can use either the does notation or the bracket notation, right? So currently we have, I want to delete the name. Probably is not needed in this object, right? Instead of manually just doing it here, we can write our code for it, right? So coming down here, I can see delete person dot name, right? Then coming here, you can see there is no name here. It has been deleted, right? Coming down again, I can decide to delete. We can so this second one, let's use the bracket notation. Delete occupation. Sorry, delete person. Open your square brackets and type in the property occupation. Good. Coming down here, we can see we do not have occupation. Again, it has been deleted. So that's how you delete a property in in JavaScript. Another thing we can do is we can combine different objects together, right? So let's create first object person1 equals to let's say we have name Emmanuel, age 100 again, right? Then create another object person2. What should we give? Okay, let's add the occupation here. Occupation, software developer. Then we have the height, tall, right? So we can combine both objects together inside one object, creating a third variable. Let's give it person combined equals. We create first an empty object, right? Then we can use the dot notation to add person1, right? Comma again person2, which are these two objects. If we have multiple, we separate them by comma using three dots and keep on adding the variables, right? But we just have two objects we want to combine. So now we should output console.log person combined. Coming here, we can see we have age, height, name, and occupation. Initially, they were different objects, but we're able to combine them into one object and giving an output. Okay, so another thing we can do also with objects. So let me just add this inside one. Okay, good. Another thing we can do is we can print the properties of an object, right? We have name. These are the properties, or you can as well call them keys. We have name, we have age, we have occupation, we have height, right? Then we can probably print everything out. So let's create another variable person keys. Let me get this person equals to object dot keys, right? And what is the name of the object? Person. So object dot keys allows us to print the properties of an object, right? So now let's output console.log person keys. Coming down here, we can see name, age, occupation, and height, which everything are inside an array, which we'll be treating next. So we have age, name, age, occupation, and height, which are the keys or properties here. Name, age, occupation, and height. Perfect. Another thing we can do also is to print the values, right? We can print the values of the objects, which are Emmanuel, Android, software developer, and height. So what we can do is we can change it from object.keys. Okay, let me first change this variable. Person values, object.values, person, right? This is the object we want to get the values from. So now let's output person values. Good.
So coming down here, we can see it's Emmanuel Andre software developer at all, right? Perfect. Then finally, we can as well get both using both the key and values. If you notice, everything is in a square bracket, which is an array. We're going to be treating that next. So getting both key and values, you can use the object. You can just output the person. It gives you both key and values, but another way is you can use the object but dot entries, person entries. Yeah, changing this to person entries. So object dot entries person. Good. Coming down here, you can see everything is on an array, array, array. Good. So another thing we can also check is if a key is in an object, right? So we can do let me take this out. So yeah, using the if statement, we can check if name in person console.log name is a property of person, right? Else we can output console.log name is not a property of person. Perfect. So coming down here, you can see name is a property of person because name exists as a key, right? So let's try for age, age, and age. Good. So coming down here, we can see age is a property of person. Now let's try for something like surname. Surname, copy, paste, surname. Surname, right? You can see surname is not a property of person. Good, because it's not in the key. We have just name, age, occupation, and height. Perfect. So that is it for objects in JavaScript. An array in JavaScript is a data type that is used to store a list of values. All right. Let's say you are building an application whereby an e-commerce, for instance, whereby you want to sell multiple products, right? You can store the whole product in an array. Let's create a variable product equals. To create an array, you use the square bracket, right? The first product I want to sell is bags, uh, clothes, shoes, wristwatches. What else? Okay, let's leave this and let's display it in our console. So going back, you go into our console, you can see the list of our products, right? You can see everything you've written: bags, clothes, shoes, wristwatches. Also, array can hold different data types. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will have to be strings, right? I can put 12 here a number. I can also put an object name Emmanuel, right? So any data type of your choice an array can hold, right? So let's display it again and see what we have. Opening it down here, you can see the different data types inside an array. We have strings, we have a number, and we have an object, right? So you can see there are numbers behind the data in the array. You can see 0,
bags, 1 clothes, 2 shoes, 3 wristwatch, 4 12, 5, and the objects. So these numbers are the index of the array. All right. The first index of an array starts with 0. The second index starts with 1. The third starts. This third is 2. It has an index of 2. Right. So we can as well output the data of the first index using the bracket notation, right? So trying to get the first index, put in your bracket and put in 0. This is different from an object from an object bracket notation whereby we're trying to get the key using a string. Getting data by index uses an integer inside the bracket, right? So if we go to our console, we'll see bags. Heading down to the second one, which is close, if I should put 1, which is the 0, the first index is 0, which is bags. The other index, next index is 1, which is close. An array starts from 0. That's the first. That's the reason when we put 0 um, inside the bracket, we got bags, right? Now putting 1, we are getting clothes, right? Putting 2, we should get shoes, right? So now let me output the whole array, and you can see the index by the side of them: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. So something we can do with an array is to get the length of the array, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 data inside the array, which is the length of the array, right? So that's the reason we're having 6 here, right? Which is also here. We can also see it when we expand the object. The array as 6. Good. So with JavaScript, we can get the length of the array using dot length. Good. And you can see 6 as the output. Beautiful. So another thing we can do is so we can change data in an array based on the index, right? I can come here and do product bracket 0, which is bags, to be equals to rings. So let's change bags to rings, and outputting products, we should see the first index as rings, right? We're able to change the value of a product by the index. Good. Another is to add a new data to an array, right? So we can, okay, let me remove this. So adding a new data to an array, let's say you ask your user for an input to you ask a user for a data and you want to add it to a list of elements you have. You can use the dot push product, which is the name of the array, dot push, right? Let's add rings to the array. Good. Coming down here and scrolling down, you can see rings has been added, right? It was not added in the array when we initialize the elements in the array. We can as well add other ones. Product dot push. What do you want to sell? Food, right? Coming down here again, you can see food. All right, and also the length of the array is increasing as we're adding data to the array. Perfect. Another thing we can do is we can delete elements from an array, right? So using the dot pop, it removes the last element in the array. Okay, so I can use product dot pop, right? Then product. We can see that we do not have the object we had initially, which is name Emmanuel, right?
It has been removed from the last from the array. It removes dot pop removes the last element in the array. Good. So another thing we can do is we can combine different arrays together. um, we can combine. Okay, let's first use includes, right, to check if data is in an array, right? We can use products dot includes bags. So dot includes gives us a true or false. So let's create a variable product include equals products dot includes bags, right? Coming here, we see either true or false. Here it's true because product includes bag. Bag is an element in the array of product, right? If we should try food, we see false, right? Coming down here again, we can try shoes and we should see true. Perfect. So another thing we can do is to combine multiple arrays, right? Let's give another variable product 2 equals food rings, right? So we can combine both array, creating a final product final equals product dot concat, right? Product 2. So what this means is that we are adding products 2 into product, right? And we are combining them together. So let's output display our final product. We can see we have bags, clothes, shoes, wristwatch, 12. Everything has been combined together into one array, and we can do whatever we want in the array. Another thing we can do in an array is to get the index of an element, right? Let me remove this and just replace it with all strings. Food rings. Good. So we can use let product index, creating a variable. We can get the index of an element, right? Equals to product dot index of let's do for shoes. So you can see it's an index of 2, right? So we have 0, 1, 2. So shoes is in an index of 2. Good. So we can delete an element based on the index. Let me just comment this out. We can delete an element based on the index, right? So if I want to delete shoes, because I know um, shoes is an index of 2, I can come here. Let me remove this. I can come here and say delete products bracket 2, right? Then let's display the products again. So you can see shoes is no longer in the array because we've successfully deleted the array, right? So we can as well look. Let's do something. Since we are able to delete a product based on the index, right, which is true. So now let's try something new. Already get so let's say I want to delete shoes in the I want to delete food in the array, and I don't care about manually checking the index, right? So I can just come in and put food. So product index gets the index of food, right? Then I can replace 2 with product index, right?
and food will be deleted. So coming down here, there is no longer food, right? So let's try for rings. Coming down here, there is no rings, right? So what we did was that we got the index of the data, right, which is rings, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Then we deleted the products by the index we got, and it's gone. Good. So let's just do a one filter. We have a list of different things. I want to filter the list to get only bags in the list, right? Let's see. Let me add bags. So we have bag at the beginning, we have bags at the end. Good. So I want to filter out the products with bags. So we can create another variable, product filter. See how the variables we are creating is relating to what we are doing. It's a good coding practice to always name your variable based on relating to what you are doing. Product filter equals to products dot filter, right? Close of bracket. So this is where it comes in. E, which is our element, I can just give it a full name of element. This is a variable, right? Good. Then we have our arrow function, right? So this is a variable that we want to use to filter the element, right? So element is equals to bags. So let's output product filter that will explain soonest, and you can see we have bags, which was the beginning and at the end. So what to filter an element is to check the element if your condition exists. For instance, this is the variable we're using to filter the element, and we're checking if this variable is equals to bags, right? So it's going to check the whole list for all the products that in all the elements in the list that has bags, that is equals to bags, right? So if I should do the same for clothes, coming down here, we'll see only one element exists with clothes, right? So now let's make this thing interesting. Instead of equals to, we can check the element that includes s, right? That include s equals true. So let's see um, a string element that includes s, which is the string, equals true. Good. So now let's see all the element that has x in them: bags, clothes, shoes, wristwatches, rings, bags. So what we did was that, again, this is a variable that we are using as an individual element, right? So using the dot filter, it checks the first one. Does the first element include s, which is true? Then add it. Does the second, does the third? So basically all element has x except food, right? So I can say element dot includes f. So which of the elements here includes f? Only just food, right? So we've been able to filter our array for specific elements. Good. That's okay. So loops in JavaScript is a way of repeating something over and over again with a condition, right? You can decide to start a countdown from 1 to 100, instead of manually writing it console.log 1, console.log 2, console log theory, and so on. It's cumbersome. So yeah, you can use loop to automatically do it for you with a certain condition. Counting 1 to 100, yeah, it has to be less than 101, it has to be equals to 100. So there are different scenarios of using loop also, right? You can have a list of products like we did in the previous part, yeah, and you want to loop through everything, you know to get a particular product or to do anything. You can do that with loops in um, JavaScript, right? So we have different kinds of loops in JavaScript. We have the for loop, we have the while loop, we have the do while loop, we have the for each loop, and each of them have their different use cases, which we would be doing in this video. So we'll be starting with the for loop, right? um in this scenario, I want to list 1 to 10, right? So starting with the for loop, you start with the for method, and it's inside this bracket. It takes three properties. The first one is the variable, right? The initialized variable, which would be using I. So I'll create a variable I, right? um then the second one would separate them by semicolon. The second one is the condition, right? So I will initialize it I equals to 0. um the second one is the condition, right? I want to list 1 to 10. So it will be I, which is the variable we just created, is less than or equal to 10, right? Then the last one is the increment. Yeah, the last one is the increment, right? So we can increment the value of I with 1 using I plus plus, right? Then just like the statement, we have the curly braces also. Then we have a statement inside, right? So I just want to display I. So console.log I. Coming down here, you can see we have 0 to 10, right? So I'll go through it again. We have the for statement, then we have the bracket, and the bracket takes three properties. The first one is the initialized variable, which we're going to be creating a variable called I, and it's going to be equal to 0 because we want to start from 0. If we want to start from 1, we should say I should be equals to 1, right? Then the second one is the um, condition, right? So we initialize the variable. What do we want? We want I to be less than or equals to 10. So as far as 1 is less than or equals to 10, it's going to keep on displaying I. And after that, we have the increment, which is I plus plus. So what this does is that it adds 1 to I. So going through this manually, the loop starts from I is 1, right? That's the first condition. Is I less than 10 or equal to 10? Yes, because I is 1. Then then we output 1. Then we add 1 to it, right? It comes again. After we've added 1, we've changed I to 2. Is I is I less than 10? Yes, I is less than 10. Display I, then add 1 to it, right? So it goes on and on till I is less than or equal to 10. So that's it for the for loop. So if I don't want I can say hello world, and it's going to give me hello world 10 times. As you can see, we have it here. So that's it for the for loop. Another example we can give, we can start counting from 5 to 1, right? So I can say for I equals to 5, right? If 5 is yeah, if 5 is greater than or equals to 0, right? So I minus minus, so I'm decrementing, right? So we've already created a variable and initialized it to 5. If it's greater than 0, do whatever you want to do, then remove it. So from 5 we should get decrements 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0. Good. So let's console the log I. Okay, good. So we can see 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So if I should say it's greater than or equal to 0, we should see 0 added to it. Good. So there are a lot of possibilities you can do. You can So we can also use looping in an array, right? So let's give this a let's my array. Let's have an array of different random numbers, 12, 30, 43, different random numbers, right? So we can loop through this array. We can use the for loop for um, I is equals to 0, right? Yeah, I is less than the length of the array dot length semicolon then I plus plus. Alright, so we've declared the variable I is less than the length of the array, then we increment 1 to I. So now we want to print the individual data in this array. So what we can do is we can get the data by their position, right? So I is going to start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So what we can do is we can display console.log my array bracket I. So what this does is that I in this case is now the position of this array, the index position rather of the array. So looping through the first 0, it goes to the 12, 43, 45, 84, 42 and 24, right? Using the index, because the first index of an array is 0, which we just treated. So let's run this and run it with our live server. So good, you can see 12, 43, 45, 84, which is everything that is here, right? So we can as well create a variable and call it number elements equals to my array I. So we already have this data inside the variable. So we can output the multiplication of the numbers by 2. So it can be numbers multiplied by 2, right? So coming down here, you can see it 2486. The individual numbers are being multiplied by 2. Another way we can loop through the array is to use the for each. An easier way of looping through an array is using the for each, right? So that way we can do it without defining using too much variables. So we use the array dot for each, right? Open your brackets. Then inside this bracket we have to declare another variable which uses an arrow function, right? So let's call this I, and it uses an arrow function and then equally braces, right? So with this we are able to successfully loop through the array. So let's display I, which is the individual elements in the array. So doing this, you can see we've been able to get this, the individual element. So we're able to get the elements without using the variable and getting the index. With for each,
we can get the elements directly without the index. Another interesting thing about for each is that apart from just getting the element, we can get the index of the element also, right? So the first variable is for the element itself in the array, and we can add another variable called um, let's give it a, right? So let's output both of them, index and a. So you can see I and a rather. Okay, instead let me rename it element and index. I think it's better this way. Elements and index, so we have a good understanding of what we want. So the for each can take two parameters in our method, right? The first one is the element, which is the element, the array, and the second one is the position of the element, which is the index, right? So if you want to do anything with the index, you can have it here, and if you want to do anything you want with the element, you can have it here. So going back again, you can see 12 is of index 0. Remember, array starts from 0. 43 is of index 1. 45 is of index 2, 84 index 3, 42 index 4, and 24 index 5. So this is an easier way of looping through an array in JavaScript. Functions in JavaScript. Functions are a fundamental building block of JavaScript, and understanding what they are is very crucial as a JavaScript developer, because it's like the building block of JavaScript. All right. So a function is a block of code that can be called multiple times from different parts of your program. Yeah, it's performs specific tasks and it prevents repetition also. So a basic function, to create a function in JavaScript, you start with the function method, the keyword, then the name of the function. So let's say I want the name of this function to be hello world. So the name of the function, and put your brackets, then open your curly braces. So I have created a basic function in JavaScript, and I want this function to display hello world, console.log hello world, right? And let's go back to our console. As you can see, there is nothing here in your console. um so yeah, the way to for a function to work, you have to call it. If you do not call the function, it's there, it's just dormant. So to call the function, I will come down to the end of my code and put hello world and put a parenthesis. Good. So if you come down here, you can see hello world, right? Hello world, perfect. So we've been able to successfully create a function and call the function. Good. In your code, you might be creating a calculator. Let's say you are doing an e-commerce and you're creating a calculator to calculate the price of things. Instead of doing it in different parts of your code, writing different parts of your code, you can put everything inside the function and just call the function. It does that for you, right? It prevents repetition. So another thing you can do with function is a function can accept parameters. Right? So I can say I want to put name here, right? And I have to put age, right? So I can, let's make this interesting. Let's create an object inside the function. Let's create a person object, right? The name should be the name that we get in the function while it's being called. Then the age should be the age that we get when from parentheses, one parameter in the function. Good. So now let's output console.log person, right? So let's check. If you check, you can see undefined because we didn't pass anything there, right? So now calling the function, we need to pass a name, Emmanuel, Emmanuel, and age can be 100, right? So now going back to our console, you can see we have name Emmanuel and age 100, right? So we can pass parentheses inside the we can pass parameters rather inside the function. Good. Let's give another example of addition. Let's create a function that takes two numbers and add them together. So function addition function. Let's name the function addition function. Open brackets. The first parameter will be x, comma. Second parameter should be y. They are separated by a comma, right? Then your curly braces. So let's create an addition variable equals to x plus y. Good. Then we'll use the console.log addition. So now let's call the function 10 plus 13. We should get, okay, 10 plus 23 rather. Good. So we can get 33, right? So it's also a function. It also helps us to arrange our code. You can see how neatly everything is just there when we need it to call it. If we don't need it, we can decide not to call it. It does not run until you call a function. Another thing we can note about a function is the return keyword, right? Um, a return keyword is used to return something from a function. So after performing anything inside a function, with you can return it back to whoever calls the function. Good. So now I've had my addition. We can explain return keyword using this same function. So I can decide to return addition back, right? So now calling this function, I can make this function a variable when calling it. I can come here and say let's add equals to addition function 10 and 23, right? And this addition, I can print it out, console.log add. You can see 33, right? So there are sometimes we want a function to just do a little thing for us and return the results to us back. That is when you use a return keyword. In this case, I wanted this function to add x and y together, then return the addition to me so that I can use it whenever I want. So while calling the function, I created a variable to use the function. Good. We can as well say, let's give another example of a function. Let's say we are creating a user and we need the first name and last name, right? So we can name this function get full name. It takes in the first name and last name, right? Good. So now we want to return in an addition of first name plus last name. Okay, let's add the space in between. So first name space last name. Good. So now I can come here and create a variable. Let full name is equals to get full name, first name Mabude, last name Emmanuel, right? So if I should console.log full name, coming back to our console, we can see Omobude Emmanuel, right? So the function added the first name and the last name and return it to whoever is calling it. And in this place, I decided to call the first name and last name, and by the virtue of the return statement, I can use it as a variable. So that is the basics of function. There is a shorter form of creating functions in JavaScript. It's called the arrow function. It's a short and precise way of creating function, another method of creating function in JavaScript, right? And with this arrow function, you can assign the function to a variable also. So let's create a basic hello world variable. Hello world equals to create this function, you just use your brackets.
your curly brackets, right? Then you use your equal to and greater than sign, which is like an arrowhead, right? Equal to and greater than sign. Then you put your curly braces. So that's just it. You've created the function. So now let's put our expression, which is console.log hello world. Good. So now calling this function down, we can see we've called the function. We have to call it the normal way we'll be calling other functions. Good. So we can see hello world, right? So compare this to other function. This is a very short way of creating the function. Good. So just like a normal function, our arrow functions can take parameter also. So let's recreate our addition function. Addition function equals to, again, your curly brackets, right? Then let's add parameters x comma y, right, to be able to receive parameters in the function and add them. Then equal to and greater than sign together, then your curly braces, right? So now I want to return the addition of x and y. So return x plus y. Good. You can see how short it is. Your function can contain a lot of things. It depends on what you want to do. So I can decide to come here and say console.log addition function 2 comma 5, which in our console should get 7. Perfect. um Good. So this is how basically arrow functions are. It's similar to the normal function, but it's shorter and concise. So it depends on you. You can decide to create your function using the normal way. You can decide to create your function using this way. So that is it for function. You can try out different things and see how much you can achieve using functions.